to be very clear about what tonight is. This is not a goal setting session. This is not a new year, new you conversation. I have no interest in that at the moment. The language, that language is designed to make you feel something about confronting anything. Tonight is different. Tonight is almost like a detachment, a severance. You walked into January carrying the same nervous system you had in November, the same hesitations, the same unfinished loops, the same quiet agreements you made with your own limitations. Understand? But what no one tells you about the new year, it doesn't reset identity. It's still the same you. Dates change, clocks change, the number at the top of your screen, it changes. However, the person interpreting reality, it's still the same person. The mechanism doesn't update automatically. It has no respect for the calendar. The only thing that interrupts psychological continuity per se, it's conscious confrontation, conscious engineering, conscious rewiring, not inspiration, not motivation, not watching someone else's transformation and hoping the same happens for you. That proximity transfers. You see, the deliberate decision is to stop the momentum of who you've been and examine whether that person is permitted to continue. If that person is serving your best interest. Most people don't realize they're living inside a loop, a continuation. They think each day is different. It's a fresh start, but it isn't. Each day is a repetition unless something breaks that pattern there. And you see that pattern doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a pattern. It feels like you. It's who you are. It's your patterns merged into you. It's ego. It feels like your personality. It feels like just how I am. And that's the danger. That's the risky part there. The things that are destroying your execution doesn't feel foreign, doesn't feel like it's outside of you. They feel familiar. They feel like home. And so people drag their entire 2025 into 2026 without realizing that fact. Because it doesn't feel like baggage, it feels like identity. It's just you. So let me say this clearly. If nothing internally is confronted, if no belief is questioned, if no habit is severed, detached, if no pattern is named out loud and rejected, 2026 will not be a new chapter. It's going to be 2025 all over again. It will be the continuation. And worse, it will be a reveal of you, your habits. 2026 will simply expose what 2025 was building in the dark through your habits, through your desires, aversions, the debt you've accumulated and discipline, the problem you allowed in your standards, the negotiations you made with comfort, and then you called that patience. You see, it all compounds. The bill comes due when you least expect it, usually when you need yourself the most, especially the best version of yourself, your best effort. So let me tell you what tonight is actually about: severance, detachment. It's about what you want from 2026. Everybody wants things. Wanting is easy, wanting is free, wanting requires nothing. It takes absolutely no effort to want something. Tonight is about what you are no longer allowed to carry. into this new year, into this new cycle? What patterns have expired? What versions of you are no longer permitted to make decisions? I'm looking at the screen as if the camera left. But the stories you've been telling yourself, that starting now you refuse to continue, that don't serve your best interest, that don't serve your best decision making, that don't serve your optimal execution. This isn't about this isn't about adding something new. It's about removing what's been sabotaging you, what's been hurting the process, the system, while wearing all the garments of your personality. You see, that requires something most of people avoid their entire lives. It requires you to stop, reflect, look directly into yourself, your soul, and look at what you've become, who you are today, and what being you today means for you and your trajectory come this year. Not what you intended to become, not what you tell people you're working toward. It's what you've actually became in practice, in private, when nobody's watching, your habits, the moments when no one was watching. And so that's the main topic of today. Before we go any further, I need you to make a decision here. Very important decision. Not out loud, not for me, but for yourself. Decide at this moment whether you're here to feel something or to sever something. Make that decision, because this broadcast will be useless if you're just here to consume, if you're here for emotional tourism, emotional activation of some sort, to feel inspired for an hour and then return to the same patterns come Monday. You will get nothing from this. But if you're here to actually end something, if you're here because you've recognized that something in you needs to die so that something else can finally live, then this is for you. You must stay. I'm accompanied by Romel and Zeke today. So that goes to show you how important today is. Zeke, Romel, do you have anything to say before we begin?
Um, what I would like to say is, first and foremost, with 111 people in the audience, that this is being done out of love, okay? At least from me.
I agree.
I already know that I plan to say some things here that ideally would make a lot of people turn away from me and make a lot of people view the things that I'm about to say, however they're going to spew out today, as repulsive and tough, and man, you didn't really have to say that, you know? But love comes in a lot of different forms, and this version is a little tough. That's all, right? I want us more than anything to grow, and sometimes that requires us to not remain stuck at a place of trauma, to not remain stuck with those subconscious weights that hold us down because there was something that consciously crippled us when we were younger or whatever, by somebody, someone said or someone did. Now I feel and believe this, and I can't grow out of that. Okay, so um this is just a tough love session, but I promise, though, in some way, shape, or form, there will be a band-aid put on it, right? Because you know there has to be a nurturing that's done also. But you know, just know that everything that's being said is always being done. It's always being said and done from a place of care and consideration. You know,
Intention.
intention. Please forgive me for being considerate about things that you are not considerate about, right? Forgive me for being able to see something that you need to work on in addition to everything you've worked on. And this goes for everybody, okay? Even myself. Now, I'm gonna be saying a lot of things that you may not know. If it comes to mind, I'll mention it. But I'm gonna say a lot of things that I need to say to myself, because no one is there to say it to me. No one is there to teach me. No one is there to guide me. Okay, except me. So, every message that I deliver is a message that hit me first. And sometimes the message that I'm delivering is a message I need for myself. So just know that I'm not gonna
Same
just
here.
be up here just trying to talk and educate y'all. I'm gonna be rapping to myself too. I'm not exempt from anything that I tell you. I'm, if anything, I need to be held more accountable to the things that I'm gonna preach and teach to y'all. Okay. So just know, like, if anyone ever wants to be choose to be offended and choose to be just in a negative space or whatever, trust me, first of all, that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen regardless, but then it's another thing for you to stay there. Okay. I've talked to countless people about this, okay? But just know that, like, it's like I've been through it way worse too. And this is the only path that I have taken to get to where I'm at. So even though the truth of the matter may be that there are other solutions and there are other paths, this is the only path I have to offer because it was the only path that I experienced. It was tough, and it wasn't kind. It wasn't full of compassion. It wasn't it wasn't safe. I almost died for this. Okay. I almost died to be who I am today and to be here in front of y'all.
So this wisdom is
So,
personal.
yeah, like, it's very personal, you know? I'm trying to endeavor to be transparent. I'm trying to endeavor to be the most raw form of me that I can be in front of you guys. I'm not a guru. I'm not someone who has figured it all out and has all the answers, but I just share my life and my journey with y'all and what I know along the way. As I'm experiencing, I'm learning, and I will deliver and render what I believe I know to be true at this time, and it's always subject to change. Because I'm only 27. I might say something here today that I'll fundamentally disagree with by the time I'm 40. I don't know. But what I do know is that we're all here today. So there's going to be a lot of things said. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. If it applies to you, hold it. If it doesn't, throw it away, you know? But just make sure that, you know, if like, I don't know, this is a place of correction. God corrects those who he loves. If your children fall out of line, you beat their ass. What I'm saying, like, spare not the rod, right? Raise up a child in the way that they should go, so when they get older, they will not depart from it. That's Bible. So this is just one of those moments where it's like, all right, it's been a year, right? It's been one hell of a year for me. And now here we are. And I know that we go through this all the time. We all want to look forward to just a good year. Okay. So we're going to just talk about what that looks like. We're going to talk about what good is. We're just going to let this day flow, and it's just going to be full of value. And just know that at the end of the day, any and everything that's said is said with consideration and said from a place of love. Otherwise, I could just turn my camera off and dip, and I could continue having the very the very substantive, impactful conversation that I was having with my girlfriend, right? So it's like you guys let me know. Is that okay? Like is everything that I say today gonna be taken in the spirit of love? Okay. So then we good. What you gotta say, Z?
I was thinking before getting on the call, I was like, I want to give people their fire back. I want to light people back up because, like, throughout the years of being in the pursuit of success, you kind of get saturated with a lot of negativity throughout the process of that. And, people always say new year, new me, new year resolution or whatnot. But whatever road that y'all were on before the new year started, I want y'all to just continue it with a little fire under that ass. Oh,
That's right.
that's what because I'm the youngest one probably in here, and I have a lot of fire and ambition, and I want everyone to have the same fire and ambition that I have. I want y'all to be able to wake up every day consistently at the same rate that you woke up on day one. Same way, the things that we're going to talk about today, the things that Ramil and Rio are going to say, are going to motivate y'all. But will you continue to do that for the rest of the month? And 90% of y'all probably not. We're going to talk about this, and for a week, some of you are going to fall off. So to stop that from happening, I kind of just want to give y'all that fire, that gut strength to understand that, like, yo, this reality is mine. This reality, like, no one's going to control it. No one's going to help. The world doesn't care. To understand, like, bring that imagination back. That's really what it is. Like,
That's
to
right.
bring back the imagination, to dream big and know that you can actually conquer it. Because I kid you not, these past couple of months, everything that I've said has happened. Everything that I've said has happened. Not one thing that has came out my mouth has not happened. Everything has happened. And I want people to be aligned with that. And the only reason I think I'm aligned with that is because I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I'm truly living off of my imagination. I think something and nothing else can even get in the way of trying to, like, stop me. If a 3-year-old kid says they want to be a police officer, trust me, he believes that in all his heart. So that's what I'm pretty much going to talk about today. And then I'm going to get into how how life is reflecting. So everything is just a reflection, and how you don't have to force life, and how life is just a mirror. Same way, if you step into it, if you step in the mirror right now, right now it's going to show you a reflection of you. And you
It's
don't
really
have to
deep
force
as fuck today.
and you don't have to force that. If that mirror is just a reflection of you and you don't have to force it, and you understand that life is just a reflection as well, and anything that has to be forced clearly isn't for you in the moment. So wait, because just because a situation is good for you don't mean it's good for you in that moment. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, go ahead, Rio.
Right. So, as far as topics that we're touching on, there's going to be. I wrote this one specifically. It's a it's a term that called out to me very uh, caught my eye. Psychological inertia. It's like the physics of identity. Objects in motion stay in motion. Who you were yesterday has momentum. It takes force to redirect. See, most people think change is a decision. It's not, though. Decision is the first 1%. The other 99% is sustained force required to overcome that gravitational pull to your own history or of your own history. And so it becomes easy to, once you got the ball rolling as far as your habits, things that particularly may have never served you in some way, shape, or form, or they have been your decision making or the way in which you execute your actions, Once you start, it's almost impossible to it's almost impossible to undo all the progress or all the, how I say, the, it's almost like, sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts together. It's like when you carve that neural pathway, when you start a habit that continues to carve itself through your brain, the more deeper, the more you enforce a habit, it becomes harder to undo that particular habit. And so that's kind of where psychological inertia comes from. Then you also have like comfort disguised as patience. It's almost like, this is when people will tell themselves, I'm not avoiding, I'm being patient. This is how you waste a lot of time. This is, all of this patience is a virtue. It's a virtue when it's strategic, but most of the time, what people call patience is just fear in a more acceptable costume. If you're patient, if your patience consistently keeps you from discomfort, it's not patience, it becomes protection. Protection and growth cannot coexist in the same action. And that's one thing that's important to understand here. A big aspect of what we're going to talk about is revealing yourselves to yourselves. 2026 isn't going to it isn't going to solve or create your problems. It's going to surface them. Everything you buried in 2025 is still alive underground. Time doesn't heal patterns, it grows them. So what you're going to experience this year is the harvest of seeds you either consciously planted or you let blow in through your neglect. The question is, though, do you know what's growing? So, confrontation is a big part of what we're going to talk about today. Confronting the issue. The self help industry has made millions selling inspiration, motivation. And don't get me wrong, inspiration is beautiful, it opens a window. But then what? Most people start and they stand at the open window and breathe in the air and feel something. They feel motivated. They feel like some sort of awakening. And then they close it. Confrontation is different, though. Confrontation is like climbing through that window. It's not a feeling. It's an act. It's a promise. It's a commitment. It's looking at something you've avoided and saying, no, we're dealing with this now. That's where change actually lives, not in what you feel and what you face. And so Ramel is basically talking about that same thing where it's like, all of this is coming from love, but this love is meant to force you to confront what no longer serves you here. Understand? Trying to see if I see some of these comments here. Yes, yes, yes. Amazing. Now, so let's begin the residue of 2025. I want to be clear about something here. Before we start this section, what we're about to do is not about shame. Shame is useless. It's no point in being shameful. Shame makes you want to hide from yourself because you can't accept who you are. Hiding is exactly how you got here, correct? Hiding from yourself is exactly how you got here. What we're doing is recognition, clean, honest recognition, awareness. No judgment, no drama, just seeing what's actually there.
Mhm.
Because most people have never genuinely analyzed their own patterns. They have a vague sense. I procrastinate sometimes, like vague references or terms for how they describe themselves. Oh, I procrastinate sometimes, or I could be more disciplined. But they never sat down and looked at the specifics, the texture, the mechanics, the mechanisms of how they actually lose. Tonight, this is your time to look. And it's not even just tonight, because here tonight, we're just going to drop the value. But it's up to you to do something with it. Understand? So let's talk about what survived last year, not what you did in 2025, not your accomplishments or failures in the external sense, but I'm talking more about the patterns that made it through the year, that survived. What habits are still running in your system right now, tonight, that were running in January of last year, or perhaps even December? Patterns don't die on their own. They don't expire. They don't get tired and leave. These neural pathways get carved, and that's like stuck in your brain. They have to be identified and removed consciously, because a lot of habits become autonomous. So if you didn't do that work, if you didn't consciously name a pattern and dismantle it, disassemble it, then it's still here. It made the trip. It made the crossover from 2025 to 26. It crossed the border into 2026 with you. And here's what's worst. Here's what's worse. It may have probably evolved, and it will continue to evolve as long as you keep that certain habit or whatever that baggage is that crossed over with you into 2026 a part of your repertoire. This is what most people miss about bad habits, destructive patterns, unhealthy lifestyles. They're not static, they're adaptive. The excuse you used in March or April, September, it doesn't sound the same in December. It sounds matured, more matured. There's a reason, there's more reasoning to it, there's more logic to all your excuses. It got smarter, it found better language. Your avoidance in February was obvious to you. By October, it learned to disguise itself as strategic patience or self compassion or waiting for alignment. A lot of this waiting shit. All of your baggage has, with time, has developed into reasoning. Everybody has a reason to do what they're doing. However, these patterns don't stay dumb. It learns you. It learns what words you respond to. It learns what frames make you relax your vigilance. So by the time you get to a new year, you're not fighting the same enemy. You're fighting a version that's been studying you for 12 months, 24, 48, however. So we can get specific here and just talk about three things most people carried into this year without realizing it. First can be, we can talk about procrastination. Procrastination, in the way it can disguise itself most times as emotional avoidance. Most people think procrastination is a time management problem. It's not, it's almost never about time. Procrastination happens when a task carries an emotional charge, a weight you don't want to feel. So you delay not the task, but the feeling. It hurts to get up and go to the gym. It hurts to get up and be disciplined on the charts. It hurts to execute sometimes, even when the charts and everything in your trade career feels uncertain. It looks uncertain, which will quite literally almost be that way damn near every time, all the time. So with that, your only protection then becomes delay, emotionally avoiding a specific task or whatever it is, and that being procrastination. Think about what you procrastinate on, all the things you procrastinate on. It's rarely random. It's not everything. It's specific things. The things that make you feel inadequate when you start them. The things that might expose a gap in your ability. The things tied to an outcome that actually matters. Which means they come with the risk of real disappointment. It comes with real emotional risk. You're not bad at time management, quote unquote bad. You're protecting yourself from confrontation. The cost, what that costs you is every time you delay, you add a second layer. Now you're not just avoiding the original feeling, you're also carrying the shame of having avoided it, the guilt, the debt. That compounds. Now think about it compounding for 12 months, 6 months, 8 months. By December, you're not procrastinating on a task. You're procrastinating on a task wrapped in 11, 12, however many months of avoided shame. Then you wonder why you can't just make yourself do it, why change doesn't come easy. It's the compound of your habits, your decisions, your desires, your aversions. These things become subconscious. 95% of your day is loops. 5% of your day is conscious. And so with that, you have to ask yourself, what did I repeatedly delay in 2025? And what feeling was I actually avoiding? Second, or if, Ramel, Zeke, do you have anything on procrastination? Avoiding, avoiding.
I'd say, because normally before people procrastinate, they get in the state of comfortability. Comfortability is one of the most dangerous things in the world, in my opinion. I was just talking to Ramel about it. Being complacent in the mind, getting comfortable. When you get comfortable, you enjoy it. And as we already know, you don't learn anything from winning. You don't learn anything from being stagnant. You don't learn anything from being complacent in the mind or anything. My grandmother
I
told
agree.
me a slow mind is a devil's workshop. And that's what I genuinely do. I genuinely do believe that because as humans, we are supposed to evolve. We are supposed to continue to seek better things to grow. So the moment anything that isn't growing is dying, anything that's complacent is dying. Look at reality. Look at everything that's living. It's always expanding. So if you're not expanding, then what is? So I would say before if you realize that you're an individual who procrastinates a lot, before you come to that realization, determine if you are comfortable where you're at. Because a lot of people can be comfortable in a positive situation. Somebody can be making $10,000 a month and they're comfortable. They won't grow. Somebody can be making $3,000 a month and be comfortable and they won't grow. That's just on the financial side. Within your
Subjective.
relationships, you can accept a woman who just cooks, cleans, and listens to you, but she's supposed to multiply you as a man. You as a woman, you can sit there and just be with a man who is a provider and a protector, but is he multiplying you as a woman? Don't be complacent where you're at in the mind. You need to always seek growth, but you don't have to force it, like I said earlier. So yeah, that's my input.
Yeah.
Ramel, your
Um,
input.
input on procrastination. I would just say uh discern and think about why you choose to go at the pace that you go, right? Um I think you have to analyze like what that pace is for yourself. Like notice the mainstream, um, the mainstream thing that happens is people try to find someone that they admire, and then they try to match their speed, their, they try to match how they did it, when they did, what they did. Don't work like that, you know, because you're just not them, you're you. Okay, you can't run as fast as me, and I can't run as fast as Zeke, and I don't know if Zeke or Rio, I don't know who would win in a foot race. You know what I mean? But the
Me.
reality is that we all have a different pace that we're going to be able or capable even to function at. And so something that I had saw over the course of last year is, I'm putting out a lot of content. That was 10 years worth of conclusions coming together. You are not going to learn 10 years worth of conclusions at the rate at which I posted the videos. When I post when I post 2 or 3 videos in 1 week and they're all 2 and 3 hours long, I don't anticipate for you to learn 6 hours worth of content that covers the last 3 or 4 years of my experience as a trader in 1 week, right? I don't expect you to take trades like I do because you might not be as impatient as I am, right? I trade on a very small scale, right? So the point is I think everyone has to find what your speed is. How quick do you want to go? How quick are you going to choose to go? And then why? And that why should be rooted in how you're built, how you're wired, who you are. Not who I am, not what I got going on, not whether or not I'm about to make a private group or not, and you got to hurry up and be in there. You don't deserve to be. Some of y'all do, some of y'all don't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be in there teaching people how to load rifles and shoot a target. If you can't, if you're too immature to hold a handgun, I mean, you put a gun in a child's hand, that's gonna be a very bad thing to do. Okay, I think low key in a lot of states that's against the law to
Real
to
quick, I'm not, this being recorded, right? I forgot to start it.
Me, no. I was recording it and then my OBS got corrupted, so I just chose not to start it over again.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
It's all good. I'll
And
start recording
so
soon.
yeah. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to be showing people how to load clips and empty them. So if you're not capable or at a level, let's just say like technically speaking, to do that, then it might not be for you. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean I'm gonna leave you out to dry. There's gonna be so much information to help you at the level that you're at. And so that's the thing, you know. Be honest with where you are, because that's the only way we're gonna know where you need to go. And then you are in charge of your speed. You know, school doesn't work for everybody. Everybody learns at different rates, don't they? You know? And but for a lot of people, school is perfect. Okay? So just like that, those are my thoughts. When you said procrastination, that's just tied with patience, right? Damn, the other thing that I wrote down, I actually took a note. Let me say this. Rio, when you had mentioned I'm not avoiding, I'm being patient. That's that's good patience. You're not avoiding the hard work, but you're pacing yourself um to be ready for it, and to when I'm working towards that hard task, right? Whereas a lot of people will remain patient out of fear or remain patient out of whatever other reason, right? And that's where you
Interesting
start
because
getting
there's a
procrastinating.
very thin line between the two. But continue.
Yeah, there's like there's a thin line between like basically what I'm saying is analyze why you're patient or analyze why you're impatient. I took out the
Intentional.
time to analyze why I am impatient. And when I did that, I realized that it's just simply because I am, and there is no wrong in it. So then once I started to align with me, things started to work out. I'm a scalper and a good one. Whereas, like, okay, somebody might not, that might not be their calling. Okay. So just analyze where your patience or impatience is rooted, diagnose who you are, and just make sure that it's rooted in positivity, and then I think you'll be fine. But that's all I gotta say.
It's interesting because procrastination, as I've mentioned, more often than not, the reason you procrastinate is because of the emotional weight or the emotional charge of said task is too intense to bear. People usually become stagnant off of anxiety because anxiety carries intense emotional weight. It hurts or it's uncomfortable to have anxiety. It's uncomfortable to be nervous. It's uncomfortable to face uncertainty. Thing is though, it's all subjective. It's not a true thing. If anything, you can say however you emotionally interpret any situation can be considered an illusion because it's up to perspective. What you perceive is one thing, the other may not perceive the same. Everybody carries their own filter, everybody carries their own lens. You may look at the gym and be like, this is difficult. Why do I have to do this? And you may look at it as a burden. Another person may look at the gym as an opportunity. There's a reason to be grateful. I get to go to the gym. It's all based on perspective. And that sets the emotional tone of what's to be bared. Epictetus always talks about how there's two handles in which you can take every situation by, either make it bearable or unbearable. Every single situation, there's a choice. You either make it bearable or unbearable. It's always up to your decision. Perspective. So understand the weight. Understand the grasp what it is you're procrastinating over. And I want you to dive and grasp into the internal influence that your procrastination may carry. But these things have to be disassembled, dismantled come this year. Because if not, like I said, 2025 will be the same thing over again. And so to continue on to a different topic, what I said, three topics. So, second, quote unquote, being busy is a socially accepted form of unconscious action. No, better yet, quote unquote, being busy being a socially accepted form of drifting in life. People like to put in a lot of effort, but it's not intentional effort. You can work on a bunch of different things, but it may not roll the ball. It's dangerous because it looks like virtue. It looks like work ethic, sorry. There's a difference between productive and busy. Productive means you moved something that matters forward. Busy means you filled time with motion. I'm sure a lot of you were very busy in 2025. Full calendars, lots of activity, always working on something. But if I asked you to show me what moved, What actually changed position in your life and your skills and your trajectory? I bet you'd struggle. I bet you'd struggle because busy is a hiding place. When you're busy, no one can question you, not even yourself. Oh, I'm doing my best. Oh, look how full my schedule is. I was guilty of this for a major part of 2025. So I'm even speaking to myself here, but deep down in the quiet moments, when you're in this space, you know that the motion wasn't connected to the mission, the destination. You know that you chose the easier busy over the harder productive. It's easier to be busy than it's much easier to be busy than it is to be productive. Productivity is hard, busy is easy. And so a year goes by. Busy is drift with a better reputation. Zeke, Romel, your thoughts, your input, your insights. Busy being a socially accepted form of just drifting in life. People masking being busy with productivity, thinking they're being productive by doing a lot. Thoughts?
I'm going through that now. Yeah, straight up. That's what I'm going through. Like, and I actually am busy, but I mask a lot of my issues, the true problems that I have with just being busy. Like, yo, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, because that's the only thing that I fit. That's the only place where I don't have to be myself.
You can hide. You can hide there. And
Yeah.
that's where the danger lies. It's easy to hide there. It's easy to find reasoning for being busy there.
Because most of the work that you need to do, like I'm looking at what Romel said, most of the work that you need to do in this life isn't even physical. It doesn't have to be physical. A lot of the work that you need to do is more spiritual and in the mind than anything, because that's what they
True.
target. That's what they target. That's what gets impacted the most. When you really sit back and think about it, like, damn, throughout all the things we go through in life, the one thing that gets impacted the most is my spirit, is my mind, is my relationship with God, not the physical. But that's the one that's what we always take. We chase the physical. We claim that we're busy because that's the one area we don't have to be ourselves. And that's where I'm literally at right now. Like I was just talking to Ramel about it. I'm like, yo, what do I need to do now? What are my next steps as a man? Like where do I need to go? When I'm pre-market Zeke all day, uploading this video, doing this for this person, doing this for this person, doing this for like, you know? But it's like when all that's done, I sit back and I'm like, wow, I've made no progression. That shit hit different. When you
And
turn
that's where
around,
people often, sorry, go ahead. I'm
you,
sorry.
you good. Once you turn around and you're like, damn, I've made no progression. I've made money. I got people saying thank you. I'm helping people. People are telling me like, yo, it's genuinely impacting them. I'm feel happy on the inside. But then when I turn off that laptop and I sit back and I look at my reality, I'm like the only area that I've made progression in is the physical and my finances. What about me? Like, what am I doing? And like I was telling y'all, like I want y'all to have some fire this year to better yourself because the money is just a byproduct of all of that. Money's it's just going to amplify the person that you already are. It's not going to change you. Trust me, it's not. I promise you it's not. It's not going to change you. It's just going to make you the person that you already are because it gives you access to more things that you've never had. Us as humans, we always seek freedom, but as soon as we get freedom to do as we please, we get destructive. We get destructive. Why do we get destructive? Is because we really don't know who we are. We're either doing it for the next person, or like Rio said, we're masking it by saying we're being busy because that's the only area we don't have to be ourselves. When you turn around, it's like, damn, are you really making progression on yourself?
Can I touch on that really quickly, Zeke?
Yes,
Romel?
sir.
Is it okay if I touch on that real quick?
Hmm.
That's why progress feels empty. That's why a lot of people achieve things and they feel like it did nothing for them. You
Hmm.
hear many stories about people who
Damn.
became wealthy and they still feel depressed. It still doesn't feel like anything. Or people who have just seemed like they made a lot of progress. I'm pretty sure many of you have experienced this. You've succeeded in some area, but at the end, when you sit there and you reflect on it, you feel, you internally, your soul, your spirit, your consciousness, you know that you made no progress. It feels like time just went by, like you wasted your time. And that's because that action wasn't intentional. And so it's easy to get caught up in that cycle when you're just quote unquote busy all the time instead of productive. It's easier to do two productive things a day than to do 10 things a day that keep you busy. Those 10 things are just baggage. It becomes noise, just like the ambulance. Continue. Go ahead, Ramel.
That boy was gonna try to spit some with
Yeah,
it.
nah, he was about to start
He was
freestyling.
gonna start
He
freestyling
was
with the
already
wisdom,
freestyling.
like
He about
that's
to
a
go.
trait right there.
Yeah.
Them analogies and metaphors is about to come out. But yeah, I just typed this last little statement, but I'll just make my contribution verbally, I guess, for whatever recording. It's just like I had said that it's my opinion and belief, and the belief of a lot of other Christians in the world, that the devil uh, makes us busy, um, so we don't have time to work on our spiritual soundness and our relationship with God, or just, even with ourselves. Like, let's just how about this? Let's take God out of it. You don't even have time to get to know you. You don't even have time to think about why you did what you did. You don't have time to even sit and reflect alone, right? And then add the extra layer of God on top of that. Then you really realize how powerful busyness is, as a tactic. And so, for that, my conclusion is that busyness is a demonic tactic. Um, and not business, busyness is what I meant to try to type here. Um, I'll word it like this:
They get
busyness,
it. They get the point.
right? And so rest is God's tactic. Rest is so much God's tactic that it's a commandment for us. And a lot of people, let's just say you aren't predisposed to the Christian doctrines or Christian faith. I'll offer this for you, right? When we die, we decompose and we turn back to dust, right? From dust to dust, that saying. In agriculture, there's this agricultural term called fallow. I believe it's FALLOW, and it means to let the dirt rest. You have to let the soil rest. Every time you plant and harvest is taking nutrients to increase the yield and grow those plants, right? And those crops. And so farmers and agriculturalists understand that they can't just keep going back and replanting that same soil over and over and over again without literally tending to the soil itself, allowing the soil to have the opportunity to rest and to replenish the nutrients that it has for the crop to grow. When farmers and agriculturalists don't understand that, the yield that they get, the reward for the time spent of nurturing and pouring and watering into this plant is less. They have less to sell, less yield, less weight, less pounds, less quantity to go around. Okay. And so I would think we're all a little bit more important than dirt, and we're dirt itself, right? Fashioned out of the same stuff that this world is, right? moral of the story is if we have to give dirt time to rest, then how much more time or do you need to rest, or a season of rest do you require, or periods of rest, intermittent rest through the work that you have to do in this life, right? So, you know, when you see people like off the charts, maybe think about if you need to take a step back. You know, when you see something going on in life or whatever the case is, and like you're just getting frustrated, maybe the only thing you need to do is nothing. There was a time where that was the case for Zeke. If I can share the story about your collarbone.
Yeah. You go ahead.
So it's like Zeke was living out in Mexico, and there was just a time where uh, he wasn't expressing mm, as much gratitude as he could have for what he had and what he was experiencing. Right? Granted, there was a lot going on that he needed to deliver himself out of. Being a growing young man, right? Being a growing man, living at home with mom and dad, can't and you date, you're just not, understand how that go. Cool, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, but there was a point in time where it's like that nigga hated doing dishes. He hated doing dishes. And I told him one day, it's like, bro, just be grateful that you got dishes to do. You know. Then it was like, man, I'm trying to figure out what to do, What work do I need to do to make things how I need them to be? And everything he tried to do would fail, and it would just be like a repeat of just the universe or God, whatever, telling him like, yo, like slow down, like the only thing you can do right now is nothing, because nothing is working. And I would tell him, sometimes we get to a point in life where the only thing that you're supposed to do is no thing. And he was like, ugh. And then one day he was out playing football, went up to catch the football, caught it because he's him, right? And there was a little kid in his way, and he dodged the kid and landed down. Collarbone went snap, right? That dude said, bro, the amount of pain that I'm in and what I'm experiencing, and hold on, mind you, he sat with a broken collarbone, exposed and all, for how many days
It was
before he got
6.
surgery?
6.
Six.
I couldn't afford it.
6 days,
Literally.
broken collarbone, no surgery, no aid, no nothing but a sling, right? He was like, and so ultimately, he got put in a position where he couldn't do any work, literally. So now he had to learn how to receive. He had to learn how to let others do the work that they were supposed to do, right? And he had to be uncomfortable with that feeling. He had to learn how to be grateful for what people can do and what they're doing for him. And then finally, when he did get the surgery and everything like that, um, he was like, and he finally went back to wash dishes. He was like, bro, I ain't never been this happy. I ain't never been this happy to wash some damn dishes. You don't understand. I couldn't use my arm, and I had one, but it was of no use, and there was nothing I could do because I couldn't do anything. It would be better for you to recognize that there's nothing you can do because you shouldn't do anything, as opposed to being put in a circumstance that forces you to be able to do nothing. That always feels a little worse, right? And so, but with that though, it was just like he was learning what it meant to just be patient and understand that sometimes you just needed to rest. When you went to Mexico, it wasn't time to go to Mexico and level up and work. It was time, that was supposed to be your sanctuary. That was the place where you were supposed to dive in and to figure some internal things out, to enjoy the rest and the relaxation and the provision that you're benefiting from, take care of your little siblings and do what you got to do, and boom. And then now we're in a clear season of work, right? We're in a clear season of like, we're busy, quote unquote, but not pointlessly. We're purposefully busy. This is the season for our work to be done. So sometimes there's a season where you shouldn't work, where you shouldn't do anything, where what you should do is rest. So analyze the agriculturalists and crops. When it's time to grow, those crops grow. But there's also a time when they shouldn't even be planted to begin with. And so that's just my little contribution.
I want to add on top of that too.
Intention,
Very
man. It all goes back to intention. This nigga's
um
revealing intention. Go ahead.
pressure is deep, but too much of anything can kill you. You give a plant too much water, it'll die. Just because you think that you're in the pursuit of growth, if you're not doing it the right way, you're still gonna kill the plant. Doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how good you're trying to be. You can have 1,000 good people in the world right now. Does that mean anything? No. So too much of anything will kill you. That's all. But yeah, go ahead, Rio.
Intention. We're touching on topics that are going to reveal you to yourself. Like I said, or like Ramel was saying in the introduction, there's going to be things that you don't want to hear or have to confront. But this is one of them because we all struggle with that. All of us. Masking busyness with productivity, or masking productivity with being busy. Believing that you're doing something, that you're actually moving the ropes, rolling the ball because you're just busy. But what that in its most stripped form, what that is unconscious, unintentional action. You're just drifting. And when you drift, the wind takes you anywhere. And the wind may not take you somewhere where you urge to be, where you would desire to be. If you allow the wind to take you, if you allow the wind to drive you, you may not be able to drive the wind, but if it drives you, it might drive you crazy.
Mm.
And so, with that said, let's move on to another topic, or the third, because I believe, yes, it was three of them. So, this third topic, this one is for the people in the room the people in this server, the people in this call right now who consider themselves self aware. The lie of, I know what to do. You see, some of you are sitting here thinking, oh, I've heard a lot of this stuff before. I already know about procrastination. I already know about being busy. I know I need discipline. I know what the problems are. And that's great. Good. If you know what to do, why didn't you do it? This is the trap of the intellectually aware people. Intellectually aware, sorry. You consume information about growth, you understand the concepts, awareness is present, you know the issue, you can explain the psychology of your own patterns. That's most of us. And somehow you're confused, or you've confused knowing with doing, knowing that doing is what solves the issue here. The truth is, if knowledge alone created change, none of you would be here tonight because you would have already been a changed person. None of this would be needed. You'd already be the person you're trying to become. You'd have read about discipline 2 years ago and simply been disciplined since. You would have came across Andrew Tate a few years ago with all the discipline and all the accountability and all the rawness of life, and just have lived with it, been with it. You'd have understood the cost of your procrastination and simply stopped. But you're here, which means knowledge isn't your problem. Application is your problem. Execution is your problem. And that ties into procrastination. That ties into actively changing who you are. actively going against the grain of the logic of the reason as to why you've gotten here in the first place. As I've said, your habits, your the habits that don't serve you, the decisions that don't, the desires and aversions that don't. These things develop logic. They integrate with reasoning into who you are. And so this is why these things become your problem. The gap between what you know and what you do is being filled by something, some pattern, some belief, some unconscious negotiation that's happening below the surface. You see, the work isn't about learning more. The work is finding what's blocking the circuit between your understanding and your action. It's about connecting the dots here. So now, real quick, let me ask you to do something uncomfortable here. I want you all, everybody, to write two things down privately. No one will see this but you. Write two things down. If you don't have paper, open a note on your phone, open Google Docs, Microsoft Word, whatever. If you're watching this later through a video, pause and do this before moving on. This isn't optional if you want something from tonight. Are we ready? Let us begin. Write down one pattern you repeated in 2025 that cost you either time or self respect.
Yeah.
Not no vague shit. We're not doing vague shit right now. Something specific, a behavior you return to again and again, even though you know it was taking something from you. Name it specifically. Not, oh, I procrastinated. That's way too easy. What did you procrastinate on? What did that cost you? Write that down. Let me give you some seconds here. What's one pattern that you repeated in 2025 that has costed you lots? It has costed you. Now, are we ready to move on to the second prompt here? Amazing. Second, write down one excuse that sounds intelligent but changes nothing. One excuse that sounds intelligent but changes nothing. This is the excuse you give yourself or others that always sounds reasonable. It sounds logical. It might even be partially true. But when you're honest with you, you realize it's just a cover story. It's the thing you say so you don't have to look at the real reason. So again, write down one excuse that sounds intelligent but changes nothing. It's not honest. You know it's not authentic. It's just a cover story. I'm cooking with these questions, isn't it? These niggas got to be real with themselves. This ain't no vague shit.
Yeah, bro.
This ain't no surface level shit. Everybody's spending too much time drifting in life. Everybody's spending too much time disguised and busy with productivity. There's always reasoning to everything you do. Always reasoning.
For
But
real.
is it honest? Is it authentic? Is it intentional? Now, for those of you who have finished, look at what you wrote. Look at what you wrote and understand something. That right there is what crossed the border with you from 2025 into 2026. That's what survived. That's the residue of 2025 living in your system right now. So, in a sense, you're almost actively living in the past. Some people stay there, they never get to move. Some people still stuck in 2022. Some 2020. We're just starting from 2025, so it gets to show you how much people drift. Some people drift from 20 to 70. Now they on their deathbed at 72, thinking, damn, what have I done? But here's the question. Here's the question. Does that pattern have any permission to operate in 2026? Have you formally decided, not vaguely hoped, but decided that this stops now? Does
Not
that
like,
pattern have permission to operate in 2026?
bro, it's
Be
crazy that
honest
you're
here.
saying this, Rio, because I had a vision while you're saying that. It's literally the same as it's like saying, okay, it's the new year. I have piss in my cup, and now I'm trying to refill it with Gatorade. Oh, it's a new year. New year, new me. Forget all the bad habits I had. I still got dirt and piss in my cup. Mind you, you're the cup. I still got dirt and piss in my cup. Let me just throw something on top. Let's just put some Cool Whip on top. Put some whipped cream on top. No.
But the piss is
Gotta
still there.
It's still there. You gotta pour the cup out, clean the cup, dissect it, figure out that shit is really dirty still, and then start over. Because regardless if there's Cool Whip on top of the cup or not, there's still piss in the cup. You're not gonna eat it.
When you eat, you don't just, when you eat in between meals or when you eat consecutively, you don't just not wash the plate and eat off the dirty plate the next time you do, unless some of you niggas is dirty. I would hope not. You wash the plate. Next time you eat, a whole new batch of food is on that exact same plate. You don't just add on top of the dirt that's on your plate after you
Oh,
finish the last
exactly.
meal. You clean that motherfucker. Clean
Exactly.
slate.
He spitting, y'all. Clean plate, pizza on a clean plate. Make sure y'all do that.
This nigga big back.
Like always eating, bro.
But
It's
because the thing is, vague intentions don't override edited patterns. You can't kind of decide to change and expect it to stick. The pattern has momentum. You need force. You need force to stop momentum. This is basics. This is basic physics. That force begins with the clarity of what you're actually up against. These patterns, not allowing them to operate in 2026. So what I want you to do is keep what you wrote. We're not done with it. And so with evolution or patterns, these patterns evolving throughout the years or throughout last year, think about it like an organism. Your bad habits don't want to die. They adapt. The procrastination that was obvious in whatever month, say January, got subtle by June. It learned which justifications you accept. It learned when you're weak after a long day, after a disappointment, when you're tired. It started attacking at those moments specifically. You're not fighting the same enemy from last year. You're fighting a version that's been taking notes on you, that's been actively studying you to convince you to cope with it, to accept that pattern. That's why willpower alone fails. Willpower alone, you're not just going to win this battle. You're bringing the same weapon to a fight against something that upgraded. Your bad habits went through a pack a punch. These patterns went through a fucking enchanted table. Your bad habits don't went to the gym on your ass. They upgraded. And so that's why willpower alone is going to fail, especially when you believe you might have used willpower before. What do you think you might need more today? And
Rio, look at the
so,
chat, bro. The nigga saying you on fire right now.
That nigga is cooking, bro. He's cooking.
Bro, where did you find this image? How did you do that?
This nigga is Michelin star chefing right now, bro.
so there's a
Hmm.
there's a particular kind of suffering reserved for people who almost change. I'm talking about this topic of almost doing something, who get close, who know exactly what they should do and then watch themselves not do it. That is worse than ignorance. You see, ignorance is peace, it's bliss. You hear about this all the time. You don't know what you're missing. But when you do know, when you're aware of the issue, which is most of us, you know what the problem is. When you see the path clearly and still don't walk it, that's a specific kind of spiritual damage. And Zeke was talking about this not too long ago, where he was like, or Ramel, he was referring to Ramel, he was referencing Ramel saying that most of the work is not even physical, it's mental and spiritual. The kind of spiritual and damage that you endure when you know what you're supposed to do, you know the path, and you still don't walk the path. Right there is when you begin to lose trust in yourself. And without self trust, nothing works. The entire foundation crumbles, it falls. Every plan you make is already undetermined, or it's undermined, for example. Yeah, every plan you make is already undermined by the memory of previous plans you might have abandoned, or not even might, but you did abandon. So a lot of your plans start off at it's already at a it's already presumed to be abandoned to begin with because of how you treat other plans. So that's something important to note there. Also, as far as this busy stuff we was talking about, being busy as identity protection, as masking the real you, being busy protects you from the question of whether you're effective.
Mm.
As long as you're in motion, you don't have to evaluate direction. You don't gotta evaluate shit when it comes to direction as long as you're in motion. As long as you just doing shit, nobody cares where the shit is going. And for a lot of people, that's the point. Because if you stopped, if you got quiet, you might have to confront the fact that the motion wasn't going anywhere, that you were running on a treadmill and calling it progress. Busy is the most socially acceptable way to avoid your own life. People will praise you for it. Wow, you work so hard. Wow, your work ethic is incredible. Meanwhile, nothing that matters to you has moved an inch. So you don't feel shit. You begin to live in regret. And so, on the topic that we were talking about after that, which was knowledge being a trap, consuming all this information and not doing anything, The danger of self awareness without action is that it becomes a performance, a show. You can describe your patterns thoroughly, eloquently. You can analyze your childhood. You can explain exactly why you do what you do. And all of that knowledge becomes a substitute for change, for action, for the doing, for the get down. It's like reading about exercise and believing you're getting fit. I ain't doing shit. You don't just watch David Goggins and you see him run all the time and think you losing weight. No, you got to do what he do. At some point, at some point, you have to stop studying the map and start walking. And walking is where it gets hard. Walking is where your patterns fight back. Walking is where uncertainty lies. Walking is where resistance lies. That's why people stay in the study phase forever, in the consumption of wisdom. I'm going to keep consuming. I'm going to keep trying to be aware. There's more to be aware of, but there's no doing. It's easy to be aware, it's hard to do and undo because it feels like progress without the friction of actual change.
Mhm.
Actual change comes with friction, it comes with tribulations, it comes with suffering because you're undoing who you were to shed that skin and become who you're meant to be. Understand? My chat moving slow. Amazing. And so, with the two things that I had you guys write down, what you wrote down is that's just the shape of your cage, of your prison cell. It's not dramatic. It's not some overwhelming darkness. It's a specific pattern in a specific story you tell about it. That's it. It's a pattern and your perspective towards it. That's what's been running your life. So whatever you wrote, don't look away from it. Because this thing that has been running your life, now it has a name. It's been identified. It's visible. You cannot fight what you cannot see, but you see it now. Don't let it fade back into vague awareness. That piece of paper is a mirror right there. Keep looking until you know its face. You know its image better than yours. Now, to continue, I want to get to the why. And I know me, all three of us are going to have a lot to say about the
I want to
why.
tap on what you said first before you get into that.
You got the
Um,
stage.
so, um, this may be controversial, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna just start out straight like this. I don't like setting goals. And what I'm about to say is very serious. I want y'all to write this down too. I don't like setting goals. I only like setting systems. The reason I say that is because there have been multiple times in hindsight where I realized what I'm about to say, okay? In hindsight. But there have been multiple times where I'll set a goal for myself and I get distracted by a different route and I don't know that that's God. Because I'm so headstrong on my goal, I feel like anything outside of that is something negative, and I don't know that that's God. Just because you want something good does not mean it's good for you now. There's been multiple times I'll say, okay, I want this done. I want this done. I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna get this. But God has a different route. I'm not saying that God doesn't want it for you. He just has a different route. The universe has a different route. But you don't know that because you have a goal and you want to hit it at a specific time. And God is saying, I have the same goal for you, son or daughter, but this is how we're gonna do it. But the reason you're not letting me grab your fucking hand, excuse my language, is because you have a goal and you don't even know yourself. And you think this is really what you want. And you think that this is really where you're headed. But since this is a goal it's hard for me to get connected to you now. So for 2026, I have no goals. I have implementations. I have systems. Another thing, how would you feel if your son or your daughter always asked you for things but never wanted a relationship with you? Think about it. Think about it. Your son, your daughter asks you for everything, but never tried to build a relationship with you. You can pray to God all you want. God knows what you want. Universe knows what you want. It knows what you need. It knows your desires. It knows your necessities. It knows. You don't have to ask. You don't have to want it. You don't have to intentionally manifest. You don't have to hope. It knows what you want. He knows what you want. So build a relationship so that all your desires become the default of your reality. If your son and daughter listened, honored, respect, and really wanted a relationship with you as a mother or a father, you will naturally give your child everything because they are doing exactly what they're supposed to do as a child. But if that child isn't building a relationship with you, why would you do anything for your child if all they do is ask? So before you, the next time you go pray, or the next time you manifest, or the next time you sit back and try to analyze your life, see if you actually got a relationship with your life. See, do you have a relationship with yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you know God? Do you know what's really going on? Because if not, you're never going to get what you want. So yeah, I just wanted to tap into that part that you were saying. That's all. Ramel, you got anything to say?
Let me
No.
get to the point. Oh wait, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead. Before we
boy
continue on to the
Rio on
whys
fire.
and
He
stuff.
already know what he want to say.
No, no, I'm good. You can continue.
Very point. Well said. Well explained. I'm going to touch on the why. The whys, and that will kind of integrate with what Zeke has mentioned. His Zeke input has been the why. Why you know what to do and still don't do it. Why you've read the books, watched the videos, you understood the concepts, yet you still find yourself repeating the same cycles here. Nothing's changing. You know, but nothing's changing. Why motivation comes in waves that crash and recedes, leaving you exactly where you started. This section is important because if you don't understand the mechanism of why, then you don't act. And then even then, if you don't understand the mechanism of why you don't act, you'll just keep trying to solve it with the wrong tools. This nail got to be embedded in that coffin. So let me tell you the lie that you've been told here. The lie is that you don't act because you don't want it enough. There's not enough will for what you want. That somewhere, if you just found the right motivation, the right why, the action would flow naturally. That you would just wake up one day and start, like you see in the movies, you see somebody just have an epiphany, and ever since then they was never the same. Very rare case, but generally it's a lie. Hearing that successful people are successful because they have deeper desire. They want it better than you do, or more than you do, sorry. Stronger hunger, more powerful reasons. That is false. You have desire. You have plenty of desire. The want is not your problem. If wanting were enough, you'd already be transformed. You want to be disciplined. You want to execute. You want to be the person who follows through. So clearly, wanting isn't the issue. It's easy to want here. The real reason people don't act is because Emotional resistance to discomfort. That's it. It's simple. Resistance to discomfort, resistance to shedding who you were. This ties into the book studies that I do on Thursdays. Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. Very great book. We are currently doing a book study on that. We'll be resuming this Thursday, by the way, so make sure you're there. It's not complicated. Emotional resistance to discomfort. Neither is it mysterious. It's not some deep trauma you need years of therapy to uncover. It's more simple than that, much more simple than that. But it's harder. Your nervous system is wired to avoid pain. Your ego is created to avoid pain, not physical pain, emotional pain. The discomfort of uncertainty, the friction of effort, execution, action. And then, better yet, the vulnerability of failing, the vulnerability of trying and failing, giving it your best shot and still potentially failing. Every action matters. Every action that would actually change your life comes packaged with emotional discomfort. You know, you hear people say all the time, success lies in the work that you avoid. Your system has one job. Your ego has one job: keep you safe, keep you away from threat, keep you in the familiar. Keyword familiar. So when you approach the action, your nervous system fires a warning. It doesn't say, oh, don't do this, in words. It says it in sensation, in feeling, in emotion, a tightening, a heaviness, a sudden urge to do something else, a thought that says maybe later, or I'm not ready, or today isn't the time, or let me just do this other thing first. You see, this is where procrastination starts to be born, starts to birth. The ego starts to birth procrastination here and reinforce it. It becomes stronger. Do you see where your reasoning for destructive habits begin? It's not laziness. It's just your nervous system doing its job. Your nervous system is here. It's built to protect you. The problem is that the job is survival. It's not growth. Growth and survival are two different things. So let's go deeper here. Your system prefers familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth. And that's a deep one. Your system prefers familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth. Read that again in your mind. Familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth. Write that if you have to. This is why people stay in situations that are clearly bad for them, relationships that drain them, jobs that they hate, patterns they know that are destructive. It's not because they're stupid. It's not because they don't see it. It's because the suffering is known. The suffering is familiar. It's mapped. The nervous system knows what to expect. It knows how to cope. It knows it can survive because it already has. There's familiarity here. But growth, that shit is unknown. Growth means entering territory your system hasn't mapped. You know, when you play GTA 5 for the first time and you on story mode campaign and you look at the map and the shit black, but until you start exploring all the routes, all the streets, it starts uncovering itself. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. Growth means entering territory that your system hasn't got familiar with. It hasn't mapped. It's unmapped territory. To a nervous system, that registers as danger. Everything that is unfamiliar is danger. Most people don't have any level of resilience to that right there. Discernment, sovereignty, integrity, grit. So, given the choice between familiar pain and unfamiliar possibility, your system will choose the pain. Every time. It's expected, not because it's good for you, but because it's known, it's familiar. This is why you keep ending up in the same place with the same results. This is why the patterns repeat. Your nervous system is not optimizing for your potential, it's optimizing for predictability. Life has to be predictable. This is why it's easy to live the same life. Loops repeat themselves. The mind, your nervous system, the ego, it loves loops. It loves predictability. Growth goes completely against that. Growth is completely unpredictable. Hence what Zeke was saying, we're setting systems, not goals. So here's where it gets subtle. Again, identity protection, protecting your identity. Your patterns aren't just habits. They're part of how you know yourself. Because habits shape identity. Atomic Habits talks about this. For those of you who've read it, you know, you know. When you procrastinate, there's a version of you that understands that person, that has a relationship with that person, that knows how to be that person. When you imagine the disciplined version, the one who executes, who doesn't negotiate, who does what they say they're going to do, that person is a stranger, a complete stranger, because you haven't tapped into that version of you yet. And strangers are threatening. Strangers are threatening. Unfamiliarity. Part of you who doesn't want to change because change means becoming unfamiliar to yourself. It means not knowing exactly who you are anymore. Quite literally being lost. Not being able to predict your own behavior. Losing the stable ground of this is just how I am. A lot of people like to avoid that part. But again, success lies in the work that you're avoiding. Every time you approach real change, you feel the pull backward. The strange comfort of the old identity, the voice that says, oh, this isn't really me. Or I miss when I used to do this. I miss this version of myself. Or I haven't been this way in a long time. It's terrifying to the psyche, the unfamiliarity of growth. So then it resists, not by arguing, but by creating friction, by creating resistance, by creating emotional discomfort, by creating internal suffering. Some of you can even correlate that with the heaven, hell, God, devil. The devil being the friction, the emotional suffering, the resistance. God being leading you through that unfamiliarity, still executing, becoming familiar with the unfamiliar. See, that voice isn't wisdom, it's your identity protecting its own existence. So allow me to introduce a solution or a frame that will change how you view this. The Stoics understood something essential. We suffer, or Seneca himself, he said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Therefore, the discomfort you're experiencing, it's, or the discomfort you're avoiding, the pain you think is on the other side of action, most of it doesn't exist. Therefore, it's an illusion. As I said before, these things are subject to perception, the filters in which you carry. Life is just black and white, it's neutral. We choose what colors we want to add to life. But just know that where you see blue, somebody else may not see. They might see yellow. Where you see red, somebody else might see green. Understand your colors and truly dissect of whether that's the colors you want to place on said thing. But anyways, it's a projection, sorry, a simulation story your mind runs to keep you from moving, to keep you stagnant, because it's very much familiar to be where you are. Think about the last time you finally did something you'd been avoiding for weeks. What happened when you actually did it? Usually it was fine. Sometimes it was hard, but manageable. And often there was relief. There was the, finally, fucking finally. The anticipation was worse than the event itself. It's much easier to just do the thing than to resist than to resist doing the thing. Because you can spend however many weeks procrastinating on something when it could have just been done in that particular moment. It would have just been way more easier to internally bear than to have to resist. It hurts to resist. It physically hurts to resist. It hurts to have anxiety all the time. It hurts to be fearful all the time. It literally hurts. You feel your chest tighten, your stomach starts to turn. So, therefore, it's much easier to just do the thing. So, yes, the anticipation was worse than the event, but that's not a coincidence. That's how avoidance works. It inflates the cost of action to keep you still. That's the whole point. Then you have Marcus Aurelius. Let me see. He said, my favorite one, we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. Something along that vicinity. We suffer in imagination more than in reality. If somebody can find the quote, put it in the comments. Thank you. The Stoics practiced this. They would deliberately imagine the worst that could happen, not to make things dramatic, but to see clearly, to realize that even the worst case is survivable. To break the inflation of fear, the illusion of fear. Your nervous system wants you to believe that action will cost you everything. Truth is usually far less, it's far less dramatic. But you won't know that until you move, until you get the ball rolling, until you go through that unmapped territory, until you explore that unmapped territory. Zeke, Ramel, any thoughts? Because I want to quote some stuff, but I don't
I'm
want
more
to
so
talk
just
too
listening.
much.
I'm
Yeah.
listening, bro. You spitting. I'm more so listening right now. I did my talking. I'm just internalizing until it
Yeah.
gets to a point where I go in.
Yeah, I'm a student here. I'm listening. I'm taking notes too. I have my Google document up, and I'm answering questions, writing down questions and answers, and I'm just here soaking it up too.
Amazing.
X.
So let's continue then. We can go even deeper. Let's talk David Hawkins, the author in which I'm doing a book study on currently, and Letting Go. In his book, Letting Go, he describes the mechanism underneath all of this. Suppressed emotion drives behavior. Again, suppressed emotion drives behavior. And here's exactly what that means. Every time you experience an emotion you don't want to feel, for example, fear, shame, apathy, inadequacy, grief, you have a choice. You can feel it fully, or you can suppress it. You can push it down. Most people suppress, not consciously. It happens automatically. The emotion arises instantly, the system buries it. And when I say system, I mean the subconscious. It pushes it down, it covers it with distraction or rationalization or numbing. But suppressed emotions don't disappear, they stay there, just like what Zeke was talking about. The piss in the cup, you just adding shit on top of it. The piss doesn't leave. They just go underground. They become pressure. And that pressure drives behavior you don't understand. You start doing shit you just don't understand because there's parts in which you haven't fully grasped, parts that has been suppressed without you even consciously knowing. This is why you can know intellectually that a pattern is destructive and still repeat it. The behavior isn't coming from your intellect. It's coming from the suppressed emotional energy that that needs an outlet. It needs some way to express. Procrastination often isn't about the task at hand. It's about the fear of inadequacy, the fear of inadequacy that's buried underneath it, looking for a way to not be felt. And that's just what it is. Suppression. And suppression always carries reasoning. There's always a reason to not feel what you're going to feel. But that doesn't get rid of the feeling itself. No matter what logic you place on that feeling, it's still going to be there. It's still baggage. It's still shit that needs to be let go. It needs to flow through you. Energy and motion, emotion. So when you resist the motion of that emotion, that shit got nowhere to go. It's going to find other ways to express itself, e.g., actions in which you just don't understand. These crash outs, you might not even understand. And so, overworking isn't about ambition. It's often about suppressed anxiety or fear that can't tolerate stillness. Self sabotage isn't stupidity. It's sometimes self sabotage is sometimes suppressed shame that doesn't believe you deserve success. You see, the behavior isn't the symptom, the suppressed emotion is the cause. And that's exactly what we're getting to during that book study. But until you address the cause, you'll keep managing symptoms forever. And most people spend their entire lives just managing symptoms. Hawkins, David Hawkins, his intellect or his insight here, it's radical but simple. It's radical but it's simple. Solution. And the solution is just let the emotion be. Don't analyze it, don't justify it, don't try to change it, just feel it fully without resistance. Don't resist your emotions. Feel it. The only way out is through, not over, not under, over rationalizing, understanding. Don't analyze it, don't justify it. What you resist persists. What you allow moves through. So the reason your patterns have so much power is that you've been fighting them. And every fight gives them energy. It's like fighting in your dreams. Every resistance creates counter resistance. And it's a very, very interesting paradox. What you resist persists. So when you stop fighting, when you simply let the discomfort exist without trying to fix it or escape it, something shifts. Relief. The charge dissipates, the urgency fades. Suddenly, what you develop is a choice. You develop a choice you never had before. And so, this is what another book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This is what Eckhart Tolle calls presence. This is what Eckhart Tolle calls presence, being in the now. Most of your suffering doesn't happen in the present moment. It happens in your thinking about the present moment, your perception of the present moment, your commentary of the present moment. The mind is always just commentary, narrating. It's never actually present. So the task of you isn't painful. The task in front of you, sorry, the task in front of you, it isn't painful. Your thoughts about the task, what it means, what might happen, what it says about you, that is what creates the pain. So no, it's not in waking up early and going to the gym and eating healthy and all these habits that you might want to integrate into your life. That itself is not painful. What it is your judgment of it, your thoughts about it, what it specifically means, the weight you put on it, what might happen, what it says about who you are as a person. You see, that is what creates the pain, ladies and gentlemen. When you're fully present, when you're fully here in the moment, in the now, without the narrative, without the constant commentary, there's just there's just the thing and you. And usually just the thing in you is fine, but you're rarely present. Often we're all in our heads. You're in your head running simulations, projecting futures, rehearsing failures. And that mental noise is what creates the resistance. Understand? You following me?
Understood.
So, yes, the task isn't the problem. Even Epictetus said this. It's not the things that disturb us, it's not the things itself that disturb us, but our judgments of it, about things. The action isn't painful. The story you've attached to the action is painful. There's the thing in your perception, and that causes the internal reaction. It's not thing and then internal reaction. So people don't make you mad. Your judgments of the things that people do is what makes you mad. That's an entire other conversation. But that just goes to show you about the choices in which you have over yourself, your life, your trajectory that people don't often dive into, because it's much better to be familiar with the unknown. I mean, with the known, correct? Right? So, here, let me reframe everything about what you believed about discipline. Your problem isn't discipline. You don't need more willpower. You don't need better motivation. You don't need someone to hold you accountable. Your problem is that your nervous system, your ego, has been trained to negotiate with discomfort here. Somewhere along the way, you learn that when discomfort arises, the play is to escape, delay, distract, suppress, rationalize, to resist, and that persists. You learn to negotiate, to find compromises with the resistance. These things become reasoning, logic, as you repeat that, to give yourself half credit for half ass effort. And so now that negotiation training, that's running your life. Every time you feel the friction of any meaningful action, of any actual growth, of any actually getting the ball movement, genuine productivity instead of busyness, the negotiation begins automatically. Oh, I'll start tomorrow. Oh, let me just finish this first. Oh, I'm not in the right headspace right now. Oh, I got too much to do. Oh, I need to plan more before I begin. I need to plan this much more. These aren't decisions, they're negotiations. Your pattern trying to find a compromise that allows it to survive longer, to survive another decision. And you can quickly see how people often stay the same, how actions never become meaningful, how action becomes noise, how it's easy to just be busy instead of genuinely productive, getting the ball rolling, because that requires friction. Not friction, but it requires getting familiar with the unfamiliar. It requires meeting the stranger, because that version of you in which you're imagining, you're visualizing that you want to be in 2026, that version of you, that optimal version of you, it's not like it's not you, it's part of you. There's a part of you inside of you that has the discipline, that has the ability to perform, however you're visualizing yourself to perform, and decide however you're visualizing yourself to decide. It's just you haven't tapped into that version of you yet. All that you want, a part of you, is already you. You just have to tap into that version of you. So understand something. This shift isn't about becoming harder on yourself. It's about ending the negotiation entirely. When the resistance arises, and it will arise, the friction will come. When you're trying to change who you are, there's always going to be friction, especially logical friction. There's always going to be a logical reason to not go through with the growth, to not get down with the get down. Every time Every time, when that resistance arises, every time you don't fight it, you don't negotiate with it. You feel it, you acknowledge it. Okay, this is resistance, this is friction, and I'm going to accept that being here because it's part of the process. It's my nervous system trying to protect me, but I have to train myself to become familiar with the unfamiliar. And you act with that still there, with that resistance, with that discomfort. You still act. Not after it goes away, not once you feel ready, while it's present. Learn to do that. That's the skill, not the elimination of resistance, the tolerance. No. It actually is the tolerance of resistance, but it's not the elimination of resistance because you can never eliminate resistance. You can't eliminate suffering. You can't eliminate fucking friction. You can't eliminate these things. You're a human. You're fragile. We are fragile. We're not bulletproof, nigga. You're going to feel that shit. So it's the skill, the ability to feel discomfort and move anyway. That's the only discipline that matters. The question isn't whether you'll feel resistance in 2026. You will, guaranteed. Every day, shit gonna hurt trying to be the better you. It's gonna hurt trying to pick between the devil and the angel on your shoulder and picking the angel every time, even though the devil's tempting you to be your old self. Every day, with every decision, you're going to be tested on to be the better you or to stay who you are. To go through the route of the unmapped territory and finally mapping that, or to stay familiar with your already mapped territory that isn't serving you. So, yes, it's not whether you'll feel resistance to 2026, because you will every day. The question is whether you'll keep negotiating, whether you keep backing down, whether you keep compromising, or whether tonight is when that pattern ends. Will that pattern not have any permission to operate in 2026? Understand? Any insights, Ramel, Zeke? Anything I got to say?
Conscious commitment. That's what I got from everything that you're saying. That's what I got. Like, but it means so much. Conscious commitment. You have to make insight, integration, and you have to make the conscious commitment to follow through. So everything you spitting, bro, is hitting. I'm actually writing in my notes as you speak. I'm not gonna lie. I ain't no different from nobody else in the chat. What about you, Ramel?
Yeah, I'm a pretty radical person. And I saw he wrote, there's always going to be a logical reason to not follow through with the growth. That's what Rio had said. And, I've said things similar in trading. There's always going to be a reason for you. No, there's always going to be a reason to sell and a reason to buy. But which one are we doing now? There's always going to be something in the way of price going up. There's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be something that makes sense. But all because it makes sense, will it make dollars? Right? And so it's like, okay, I don't always root myself in logic. I learned very late, and to me, that just the idea that you can play devil's advocate, that you can always logic against anything. If I said, like, let's just say you were like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't want to bring up any contentious topics, but let's just say, you actually disagreed with something, but someone asked you to play devil's advocate and you did, and you won. But now that logic that you just delivered is not even in alignment with who you are and what you believe. Just the ability to do that, in my opinion, makes logic have so many flaws in it. So what's more powerful than that? What's more powerful than than that to me is how you feel about it. Because people always just logic in the direction of how they feel, And the only time logic really works, or if it's sound, if there's no feelings present. But even then, to say there's no feelings present at all is a little hard to do, because then where's the humanity in that? Next thing you know, you're just an AI bot with no soul. So
Numb.
so I learned this idea from actually Will Smith in his autobiography, and he wrote about, that nigga slapped Chris Rock on stage. Like, that nigga go through it. He's been on a ever evolving journey of self, and a lot of people don't know that side of Will Smith. Like, he's a very spiritually inclined and minded individual, but he had learned after he turned 50 that what he failed to consider in so many different people is how they felt. He only concerned himself with what was right, or with what was logical, or what made sense to him, and blah blah. And anything else that went against that wasn't to be considered, right? And so anyway, that's just like, I try not to root myself in logic, because I know logic can be flawed because I'm flawed. And so understanding that, like, I have to expand my mind to perceive that sometimes the direction, or the thing that makes the most sense, is the radical thought, or the radical idea, or the irrational thought, or something that, like, may not make any sense in this natural world, but it might make all the spiritual sense that could ever be made. And so, like, for example, like, believing that that Jesus was a man who came and died for all of humanity, and died and rose again in 3 days, like, is quite a radical thought, you know? But we choose to believe in that. We choose to put our faith in that, right? And so it's like, I really don't, like, it doesn't matter to me how logical your conclusions can be. No matter, even mine, I'm talking to myself too, it doesn't matter even how logical my conclusions are. They're still only what they are because I decided to root something in a irradical, or an irrational thought somewhere, not rooted in any logic that makes sense to man. It's the only way that I've made sense of everything else. And so I just want to always put on the forefront how people feel, who they are, where they're at first in all of my interactions, right? But then I take it a step further, because once again, I'm a radical person. I do that with all of my relationships, aka my relationship with money. How do I feel about that? My relationship with this occupation as a teacher or mentor to y'all. How do I feel about that? My relationship with family members. How do I feel about that? My relationship with time. Why am I rushing it to do what it does best? And how do I feel about that? My relationship with so many other things aside from just a person. I there's this word called personification. We can take things and personify them, so we can understand how to have that proper relationship with those things. One of my biggest issues was that I hated time. I tried to fight time. I tried to steal I tried to steal from time. I tried to steal my future and bring it to my present. Why can't it tick just a little faster to get me through this hardship, to get me through this rough patch? Why can't it just tick a little bit quicker? So it's just like, I'm not gonna go in too much deeper than that, but that's just me. It's like, relationship is everything. And sometimes the only way to make sense of it is to understand how that thing is gonna feel, and not to try to project your logic onto it, but rather just see what the logic that is true in nature for its design is. I know that was wordy, but hopefully somebody picking up what I'm putting down. Rio.
Amazing. Sorry, I'm texting
Since I
someone.
gotta head out, guys. Thank you Rio, for the session, for sure.
So, yes, it's very interesting. Just when you say, or just on the topic of negotiation as the core pattern, negotiating with who you were and who you're aiming to be. When you say, or when I say my nervous system, or when I say your nervous system is trained to negotiate, what I mean is that it's learned that resistance can be bargained with. This is something to play with. This is something that doesn't deserve ruthless commitment and ruthless decision making. That there's always a middle ground between what you should do and what's comfortable. And that training happened through thousands of small compromises, thousands of procrastinating decisions. Each time you gave yourself a way out, just this one time. It's okay to cheat right now, or I'll start Monday, or I'm tired today. You reinforced the pattern that kept you here. You taught your system that negotiation works, that it can win if it just pushes back a little. And most people spend their entire lives in that loop, don't even get to flourish into who they truly are. So it pushes back every time, not because it's strong, but because it's practiced, it's familiar. The exit from this isn't more willpower, it's ending the entire game, ending the game entirely. It's deciding once that there is no negotiation. Ain't no room for negotiation. What I say is what it is. What I say is what goes. That right there is when it's time to act. You act. Full stop, no discussion. The resistance will scream at first and allow it to scream. It has no power if you don't engage. And the more you can allow resistance or act despite resistance and just simply be able to acknowledge resistance, the much more intentional you live through life, the more you feel you have control over your life. Because you understand, in order to change, the only difference between you and who you want to be is just resistance. And now, resistance in action, sorry, resistance in intentional action, productivity instead of busyness. Getting through that hurdle is much more easier if you learn to build trust in who you are because you've acted despite resistance. You haven't made emotional decisions. Emotional decisions look like negotiating. The only reason you're negotiating is because of the discomfort, is because of the uncertainty of becoming who you are aiming to be. And so, that being the end of the topic of negotiation, let's talk about another one. I would label this discipline as identity, not effort. Discipline being a reinforcement of your identity, not effort. This is where we rebuild. We've exposed the residue. We've dismantled the myth of motivation and revealed what's actually been stopping you. We need to reconstruct how you think about discipline entirely because everything you've believed about it is likely wrong. Here's how most people approach discipline. They decide they want something, they summon willpower, they force themselves to act, they hold on as long as they can. Eventually, they slip. They feel guilty. They try again. They slip again. The cycle repeats. That loop continues. And then they conclude with, I'm just not disciplined. It's fine to force yourself to do something, but allow it to reinforce an identity. Your habits create identity, but that's not what happened. What happened is that they treated discipline as effort, as something you generate, something you reach for, you grab onto, you hold onto, something that requires constant force to maintain. It requires constant forcing. And anything that requires constant force eventually depletes because there's energy being poured into that force. You're not unlimited here. You're limited in your energy. You cannot sustain what you have to effort into existence every single day. You can't. You just can't. And so the shift is that discipline is not effort, discipline is identity. It's not something you do, it's something you are. And when it's something you are, it doesn't require, oh shit, fucking, what's up with my shit? Hold on. My fault, my fault. My shit fake. Tripping. What's this? Hold on. All right, I think we should be good here. Fuck it, my shit fucked up. Let me turn my camera off. Let me turn my shit off. My fault, y'all. My fault, my fault. I will turn my shit off. All right.